Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a chilling coastal legend that perfectly illustrates how folklore uses atmosphere and total isolation to just build absolute dread. We're digging into the source material for The Sea Witch of Blackwater Cove. It's a story that takes your familiar, cozy small beach town and twists it into a literal psychological trap. I mean, if you've ever felt even a little bit uneasy staring out into the pitch-black ocean at night, well, this explainer is going to show you exactly why. Let's jump right into the terrifying mechanics of Blackwater Cove. Okay, so let's dive into this. Never go near the shore after sunset. This single, unyielding rule is basically the foundation of the entire Blackwater Cove lore. And look, it's not just a suggestion, it's a desperate survival tactic. The villagers obey this blindly, nobody even questions it anymore, because the people who wandered onto the water in the dark, they simply never come back. So, when our protagonist Ethan moves to this town with his parents, he's immediately stepping right into this invisible web of unspoken paranoia. And this brilliantly illustrates how the source material builds unease before we even catch a glimpse of a monster. I mean, we all know what a normal ocean feels like, right? The crashing waves, the brisk wind, that fresh salty air you get at the beach. But Blackwater Cove? It strips all of that away. Instead, the water becomes this weird sheet of black glass. The air literally smells like something rotting beneath the waves. And the most terrifying part is the absolute silence. Visually and narratively, we are being told right up front that this ecosystem is deeply, deeply broken. And the dread actually escalates on a really specific nightly cycle. At sunset, the sun vanishes. By dusk, the wind just completely dies out. By nightfall, the ocean turns to that unnatural still glass we just talked about. And finally, in the dead of night, the whispers begin. It's essentially a countdown. Ethan is experiencing this unnatural progression from the safety of his bedroom, slowly realizing that the environment itself is behaving like a predator that's just waiting for its prey. Which brings us to the exact moment the psychological horror truly sinks its hooks into Ethan. He's standing by his window, he hears these whispers drifting up from the water, and he asks his mother about it. And her response is just immediate and terrifying. She says, "Close the curtains now." And her voice is actually trembling. This is absolutely crucial, guys. This is the turning point where Ethan realizes that the adults, his own parents, are terrified of the dark. The protectors are totally powerless. And, as we know from any good lore analysis, when the adults are scared, the threat is very, very real. So, what exactly is out there? Well, Ethan learns the truth from a quiet classmate named Mira. Let's treat this kind of like a cryptid sighting and break down the anatomy of the entity she calls the Sea Witch. She is a cursed entity that actually used to be human, but now her physical traits are this horrific mimicry of the ocean. We're talking skin cracked like dead coral, hollow pits glowing faintly blue instead of eyes, and hair made of tangled living black seaweed. And the absolute defining feature is this too wide, entirely unnatural smile. So this isn't just your standard ghost, it's a total corruption of nature. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. Put yourself in Ethan's shoes. The entire town is terrified. The ocean goes unnaturally silent every night, and you've just heard this totally horrifying lore. Why do we walk toward the things that scare us? What does human curiosity do? It pushes us right over the edge. So that evening, driven by the sheer impossibility of these stories, Ethan actually sneaks out. He walks down that narrow, twisting path straight to the dangerously calm, windless beach. And as Ethan stands there at the edge of the black glass water, calling out into the total silence, he gets a response. I mean, just imagine hearing this soft, almost beautiful voice drifting out from the shimmering darkness. "Ethan, come closer." The entity knows his name. The psychological trap has completely been sprung, luring him in with this false sense of serenity right before the physical trap snaps shut. Now, what makes this manifestation so terrifying is exactly how that physical trap is executed. It's highly tactical. First, a thin, twisted, pale hand rises slowly from the water, and as Ethan tries to back away in terror, the environment itself turns against him. The wet sand suddenly clings to his feet, shifting and pulling him down as if invisible hands are literally grabbing his ankles. It's only when he is completely immobilized that her face finally emerges from the darkness. She doesn't just attack, you see, she ensures you absolutely cannot run. But just as the witch is about to claim him, Mira arrives out of nowhere and shouts a warning. She yells, "Don't look into her eyes." But Ethan does. And this is where the source material gives us this brilliant, deeply tragic origin memory. Ethan sees a vision of a young woman crying on this exact same shore. He hears the ancestors of the village shouting that she's cursed, blaming her for a massive storm, and then they push her into the dark, cold water to drown. The tragedy here is profound, honestly. She isn't just a monster, she is the literal manifestation of the village's historical guilt and betrayal. And the moment Ethan witnesses her true, tragic past, the dynamic completely flips. Her soft, alluring demeanor vanishes in an instant, and her voice just cracks like thunder. You saw! You saw! The unnatural calm of the ocean breaks instantly. Giant waves crash, the water surges violently, and the chase is on. Ethan and Mira are full-on sprinting for the tree line while the sea witch stretches her body unnaturally, her arms reaching far beyond normal human limits all the way across the beach to try and grab them. They barely make it back to the safety of the village. Ethan just collapses, gasping for air, demanding to know what in the world is going on. And this is where Mira reveals the true, terrifying stakes of the curse. Every few years, someone disappears. The sea witch doesn't just passively haunt the water waiting for people to stumble by. She actively chooses people to take. And tonight, Ethan just put himself squarely on her radar. So here is the absolutely crucial point. The horror doesn't stop at the shoreline. Later that night, Ethan is in bed. He's desperate for sleep, agonizingly hyper-aware of every single sound in the house. And then, the whispers invade his own home. They're louder this time, closer, and they're accompanied by this slow, methodical sound. Drop, 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 drop. It's the agonizing sound of water falling from the ceiling, echoing in the painful, dead silence of his bedroom. Ethan sits up in the dark. The floor beneath him is completely wet. And then, his bedroom door creaks open entirely on its own. And there she is. It's the ultimate realization of dread. The sea witch isn't out in the ocean. She is standing right inside his hallway, with water pooling at her feet. When a completely terrified Ethan stammers out, "How are you here?" she delivers this totally chilling line. She says, "The sea is everywhere." And guys, this is the brilliant, terrifying logic of the entity's power. She isn't actually tethered to the physical location of the beach. Her domain is the water itself. Any dampness, any drop of moisture becomes a literal gateway for her vengeance. The very element that sustains life is turned into a weapon against the villagers. She moves closer, and her voice turns sharp as she connects her tragic origin directly to her horrific actions. "I was betrayed," she tells him. "They took everything from me. So now, I take from them." This realization is so vital for the lore, because it explains her relentless motivation. She isn't just some unthinking beast acting on instinct. She is an avatar of pure, conscious revenge against the descendants of the exact people who murdered her. In a panic, Ethan tries to fight back. He throws a lamp at her, but it passes right through her like she's made of mist. Physical weapons are completely useless. But just as her unnaturally long hand stretches toward him, the front door bursts open. It's Mira and Ethan's parents. They rush in, and Mira hurls a glowing charm that detonates in this blinding burst of light. The magic disrupts the curse. The witch shrieks, violently twists in agony, and dissolves completely into water that just soaks harmlessly into the floorboards. And just like that, the immediate nightmare ends. Days pass, the village returns to its normal, paranoid routine. As an audience, we take a deep sigh of relief, right? The heroes survived, the monster was banished, and Ethan is safe in his home. It's a classic, comforting resolution. But Ethan knows better. One evening, he's standing by his window again. He's looking out at the ocean, and it looks calm, just too calm. And then he hears it, a very faint whisper. But the terrifying part is, it isn't coming from the beach. It's coming from right behind him. He freezes. He slowly turns around. There was no one there in the room. But the haunting realization sets in immediately. The floor beneath his feet is wet. And from far away, drifting from the direction of the sea, he hears a soft, haunting laugh. The charm didn't kill her. It really only delayed her. Which brings us to our final thought. The lore tells us that the sea witch doesn't just live in the ocean. She latches onto those who witness her truth, the people who understand what really happened to her. Throughout this explainer, we've broken down her story. We've looked at the evidence. You've seen her truth. So, what happens now that you know? Keep an eye out for any unexpected drops of water in your house tonight. Thanks for joining me for this breakdown of Blackwater Cove, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.